Guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. This is not a clickbait kind of thing. I'm not going to get into so much the battle between Quartering and Matt Walsh, but the fight that is going on between the two of them on Twitter is really, really interesting, and I think really important for men, for society, for culture, for the battle of sanity that is going on right now in our world. I'm going to get into that story in a little bit. I want to give us a little bit of a lead up. You know, when you look at the way our culture is going right now, things are changing very quickly. Jordan Peterson, just as shortly or as closely as 2016, warned that, you know, if we start going down this path of judging what people can say and deciding what's right and wrong when it comes to what we call people, you know, him, her, they, them, etc., we're going to get in a very, very bad place. And his predictions are right. And as we can see now, the battle of the bulge, so to speak, the push of the left, has really done detrimental damage to men, to women, to different minorities, different races. Now we're having this fight to where it's okay to put down, you know, white people, and it's okay to say you're not going to hire men, and all these different things, and it's the argument from many is, look, I'm done being nice about this. I'm going to push back about it. So I'm gonna get into this just a little bit. I want to give us a little bit of a history here first. So this is back from 2016, excuse me. Toronto professor Jordan Peterson takes on the pronouns, the gender-neutral pronouns. And he says, Canadian University professor ignited controversy by refusing to use the pronouns. Is he a villain or a victim? University of Toronto psychology professor Jordan Peterson has had enough of what he saw as a campus culture where social justice warrior left-wing radical political activists run rampant. In September, he released a video lecture series taking aim at the political correctness. He zeroed in on Canadian human rights legislation that prohibits discrimination based on the identity or expression of the LGHD TV community. Dr. Peterson was especially frustrated with being asked to use alternative pronouns, and he said, no, you don't get to police my speech. He said, I'll use their name, I will be polite, but you don't get to tell me that I basically have to lie, that I have to use a pronoun that is not correct. He said, I'm not going to do that. That was 2016. Now we move forward here, 6 years later, and this is from Ontario, Canada. Again, and Jordan Peterson is Canadian. He was talking about Canada at the time. Ontario student arrested for trespassing after being suspended from school for stating belief in biological sex. And this was done at a Catholic high school. How far we've come when now even Catholic high schools are saying, nope, you cannot just believe in male versus female, and you're out. They say a student in Ontario was arrested and charged with trespassing Monday for trying to attend his Catholic high school. Josh Alexander, 16, has not been permitted to attend St. Joseph's Catholic High School in Renfrew, Ontario, since last November, when he staged a single-sex bathroom protest. He had also expressed the belief that God created only two sexes, male and female, during a classroom discussion. They told him, hey, you're suspended, you have to go home, and he went back to the school. And he said, I'm going to attend classes. You can't remove me for this, and they handcuffed him and arrested him. Alexander's lawyer, James Kitchen, the chief litigator for Liberty Coalition Canada, told LifeSite News that Alexander's decision to attend school today was an intelligent choice of a young man who knows what he's doing, adding that the arrest was not entirely unexpected. And they go on to basically say, hey, he knew what he was doing. And again, I'm getting to the Matt Walsh, Jeremy portion of this here just a minute, but I'm trying to give you a little bit of lead up as to my school of thought on this. So here's a podcast. I don't know whose podcast this is, but this has kind of gone viral today on Twitter. I'm going to play a moment of this. And here's a guy that says, I'm not going to sleep with somebody that used to be a man. And of course, everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, many of the women on here decided that's wrong and decide to get up and leave. But if you were to take a woman that has a reconstruction downstairs that was, not, I would say, traditionally male, if that's the best way I can put it, would she want to be with that person? Odds are no. But because this is his decision, she wants to call him out for it. I'll play this one as well.
Said, Chase, would you rather smash the hottest trans woman in the world?
Let me start that over so you can hear it. I think if it's got some cheesy background, I'm going to have to drop it out here on YouTube, but I'll pause it and try to break it up, see if I can get away with it.
Said, Chase, would you rather smash the hottest trans woman in the world or the oldest woman in the world? Honestly, bro, the oldest woman in the world, because then I wouldn't be gay. Are you? Okay,
so basically, if you're struggling or if I had to drop that out, he says, would you rather, somebody asked him if he'd rather be with the oldest woman in the world or someone that had, the hottest person that had ever gone from being a male to a female. And he said the oldest woman, because if I'm with that, transitioned one, then that would make me gay. I'm actually in agreement with him on this one. Love it or hate it, it is what it is. Just because you remove things and tuck and rearrange and everything like that, you're still with somebody that's with an XY chromosome. And if you know that, then you know that.
You like Chase? How dare you be transphobic?
Yes, actually. What the fuck do you mean?
Okay, yeah, and I'm sorry, this has cringe music in the background, so I'm going to have to keep breaking it up because otherwise YouTube's auto censors, whatever, pick it up and just, I don't even get a chance to argue it. It just goes. And she's like, yeah, what do you mean?
If I had sex with a trans woman, I'd be having sex with a biological man.
And so I'm just going to read the rest of it. And the rest of it, she's basically then starts yelling at him, and that's effed up. And then she gets up and walks out. And then the woman next to her is like, oh, that's really hateful, bro. Like, how dare you say this? And then she gets up and leaves. And he's like, look, I'm a Christian. I'm just not. He's like, I'm going to pass. And the girls walk off the show. So now, if you feel that you are grounded in reality and you feel like, hey, you know what? I'm sorry, I'm just not going to, you can be whatever you want to be, and I'll be nice to you, but I'm not going to sleep with you. You're not going to force the language that I use when I'm interacting with you. Now, of course, Canada doesn't have free speech. Then you're going to get in trouble. You're going to get arrested. You're going to get canceled. You're going to get fired. That's where we are now. So here's where the kind of the battle of Matt Walsh and Jeremy at the Quartering comes in. I actually agree with Matt Walsh on this one, even though he's far more conservative than I would ever be. Matt says, so Matt came out and he did a video, and he was really fighting back against this Dylan Mulvaney or whatever this guy is, that decided to have his jaw shaved down and to present himself as a woman. And Matt Walsh did a kind of scathing video of it. And he said, I'm done with you. I'm done with you. I'm not going to play along with your mental instability and your wishes and your craziness. I'm done. You are a dude. You'll always be a dude. You're not going to be accepted by society. And you're always going to be an outcast. Well, Jeremy and many other people pushed back against Matt and said, oh, you're being too nice. Or, you're being too mean. You're being too critical. Don't treat other people like this. And their logic is rather sound, which is he's still a human being. Like, you still have to be nice. And Matt was like, no, I don't. No, I don't, because they're forcing our culture in a different direction. And I'm going to play some of Matt's speech here in a minute, because he put out another video addressing the hate against him, where he says, I'm not being too mean. But Jeremy over at the Quartering has kind of gotten into a kind of a Twitter war here with Matt, because Quartering's saying, look, people say being insufferable a-hole is somehow the only way to win, or basing this on literally 0 wins. They're 100% convinced that being kind has failed them, but there's no evidence being the hardcore dickwad is effective either. And he's replying to, again, Matt's video. Now, I like Jeremy. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy his content. I get a laugh out of it, and I think he does a lot of culturally relevant things. But in this case, what Jeremy's saying is, look, you don't have any wins, dude. Like, being an a-hole has given you 0 wins. And Matt's argument is, being nice has gotten us where we are today, where we just get pushed and pushed and pushed into a corner. And now Matt has to go and sit in front of the Tennessee Congress and the Tennessee Senate and give speeches on why we shouldn't allow 2 and 3 and 4 and 5-year-old kids to basically be sterilized and to have, healthy body parts cut off and swapped around because mommy and daddy think that because he played with a Barbie, that it's okay to do this to a kid. Now Matt has to go and fight to not have kids go through this. So at what point do we say, hey, you know what, being nice about this isn't working? Like, that's it. If we're going to get into the trenches over this, let's get into the trenches. And that's that is the position that Matt's taken, and I actually agree with him. I don't have anything against anyone in the LGHD TV community if they just want to do their thing and live their lives. But at one point, well, we just want equal opportunity. We want civil union. Then it's, well, we also want marriage. Then we want the ability to adopt. And then we want the ability to give this material to kids. Then we want to be able to, transition them. And then. And before you know it now, if you just say men are men, women are women, you're going to jail. If you say we shouldn't be doing this to young people, you get hate online. And Matt's right. The time of being nice about this is over. That if you want to live your life and do your thing, that's fine. You do that. But if you want to come in and try to push this on very young people that don't understand any of the concepts, and you're going to alter them for life, we're done. We're done. That's where Matt is on this. So I'm going to play some of Matt's video here. It's about 11 minutes. I'll play through the whole thing for those of you over on Locals. For YouTube, I'll probably edit out some of the less relevant points. But I think Matt's right. We have to be done being just okay with things.
Okay, so that was Tim Pool, Jeremy from the YouTube channel The Quartering, Sydney Watson, Amala Ekpanobi from PragerU, and the guys from the podcast Trigonometry. Now, one thing I want to be clear about here is that I'm not mad at any of these people. There are no hard feelings. We can disagree and all that. It's fine. I could have done without the snideness and the lame cheap shot from the Trigonometry guys at the end, especially in the video where they're supposed to be lecturing me about the value of taking the high road. Okay, when you're going to do that, you can't start the video by insulting me, but we'll leave that to the side for now. Instead, all I'd like to do is address the overarching criticism one last time. First, you'll notice the connecting thread. Okay, they all agree that I'm right, that what I said is factually correct, but they think that it goes too far by saying it out loud. Mulvaney's the one running around like some cartoon of a woman, passing out tampons in the women's room and meeting with the president to defend the mutilation of children, but I went too far. Well, see, this is where we differ.
Now, let me pause here for a moment. This Dylan Mulvaney, he went viral because he was running around in high heels in the woods going, "These are my hiking shoes," and going way over the top, super insulting to women, super insulting to many in the LDHD TV community because it was almost a parody. But because he went viral, he got invited to the White House to speak to the president about these issues instead of actually talking to people that have been in the community for a long time, that have had a lot more experience with it, like Blair White and other people. And that's kind of why Matt specifically chose Mulvaney to talk about.
Because in the culture war, I don't think it's possible to go too far by speaking truth. The truth is the truth. It is what it is. It's the reality. Are we going to defend it or are we going to conceal it? Are we going to embrace it or are we going to hide from it? You can't have it both ways. When it comes to gender ideology, the truth is ugly. It is brutal and harsh and disgusting. I wish it wasn't that way, but it is. I didn't make it that way. I didn't create the ugliness. I'm merely pointing to it and saying, look at this. Look at it for what it is. But you would rather that I soften the blow a little bit, that I dress the truth up to make it prettier, more palatable. You want me to lie to protect the feelings of our enemies and make no...
And he'll get in a little bit more on this, but again, I got to break it up just a little bit. Where I think he's got this right is that if you're in the camp right now of, I just want to be left alone, please don't force me to do anything. I don't agree with any of this stuff, but I don't have any kids, so I'm not involved, or wherever you are right now. The authoritarianism, the people that want to tell you how you can talk and what you can say, and how you need to identify other people. They're not taking any days off. They're not relaxing. They're not saying, we're just going to leave you alone. They're saying, we're going to tell you how to raise your kids. We're going to tell you that we can let a guy that identifies as a woman to walk into a woman's changing room where wives and people's sisters and children and other people are changing. That person in many cases has even gone so far as to become aroused, which of course, if you're a mother who's got a 11 or 13-year-old daughter in there, and suddenly there's a guy standing in there changing with you, and he's looking at you, and he's popped a chub, of course you're going to be freaked out and angry. And when these women have gone to the main desk of either the spa or the various places, and one of them was out in California, another one I think it was Washington State, could be Portland or something like that. When they went and said, hey, look, you can't do this. Like this, he's still physically a man. And he's going in there and getting excited looking at young women. We've got to stop this. Those women were told to leave the gym. That this guy, identifying this way, it was more important that he felt comfortable than the woman and her kid. And so when Matt's saying, we're done with this, we're done, I agree with him. Because we have been very nice, and many of us haven't spoken out against it. And many of us say, well, I don't want to get involved. And this is the left, and the authoritarian knows this, and they're now pushing their will upon the rest of us. And Matt's just said, I'm done. I'm done with this stuff. And I agree with him. And the reason why I think this is an important video for me to address is because I don't want to be here either. But when we talk about men's issues, how many men are happy right now with the way society's going? How many men are glad to be made fun of? How many men are happy being told that we're not going to hire you because you're white or you're a man? Well, we can keep trying to curl up in a corner and saying, well, I'm just going to try to ignore this, or I'll change jobs, or I'll go do something else. But how's that working out for us? It's not working out so well. Society just keeps lurching to the left so far that I used to keep saying it's going to head off a cliff. We're off the cliff. We're falling down the cliff side. I'll continue playing here.
No mistake, Dylan Mulvaney is our enemy. He is an open, visible, active, and passionate advocate for the abuse of children, the war on fundamental truth, and the destruction of human society as we know it. You wish to defeat this man in a manner that will not make him feel bad about himself, but I'm here to tell you that you are delusional. I'm not going to protect your feelings any more than I'll protect his. You are deluding yourself. We got into this position in our culture precisely by valuing politeness over truth. We got here by doing exactly as you would have me continue doing, and what you blame me for not doing. We got here by refusing to speak the plain truth and by allowing the anti-truth brigade to emotionally blackmail us into silence. They use their own mental fragility as a cudgel to beat us into submission.
I think he's right on this. And the same thing is happening with against men, against Caucasians right now. You can come out and say horrible things about white people. And if a white person just says, no, I think it's okay to be white, I'm glad I'm white. Even that now is castigated against, like you're a bad guy, just standing up for yourself. Same thing as a man. If you say, nope, women are not equal. I'm stronger. I'm more athletic. Most men, not me personally, I'm just saying by averages, 99% of men are stronger than all women on average. And of course, there's always the exceptions. But when you come out and say these things, it's now feelings over facts for everything. You can't make fun of extremely overweight people because you're hurting their feelings, and doctors can't say anything against them, even if it's tried to help their health, to let them live longer. One of the advocates that was 500 pounds, and she was an advocate for the big at any size, campaign, she died at age 32. We're in a place where if you outright just say to men, yeah, we're not hiring anybody because you're white and you're male, And that's somehow, even though that's against everything in our Constitution, somehow that's okay. And why more people aren't suing the hell out of them, I don't know. Because if I got involved in any of that crap, I would be finding a lawyer. But in many cases, lawyers are saying, I don't want to get involved with this because of the societal pressure. And so we'll just meekly get shoved to the side. Men, women, straight, white. And I'm not asking that we're superior in any way. We just all should be equal. But that's not what's happening anymore. Again, see people being arrested for saying that they believe in biology and what basic religion tells them. I can't see where Matt's wrong.
That's the threat, right? And we let them get away with it. Or you do anyway. I won't. Second, you say that I'm not going to convince the other side with this kind of rhetoric. But here's what you have to understand. This is very important. Convincing the other side is not my primary objective. This is the core difference between you and me. I'm not looking to reach an understanding with these people. I'm not interested in compromise and dialogue. For those who castrate children and attack the very concept of truth and erode the foundations of human civilization, my goal is to defeat and humiliate and demoralize them. Okay, I want to destroy everything they stand for. The other side is not interested in compromise. They want nothing less than your unconditional surrender. We have to meet them with that same energy or we will lose or continue losing.
And I agree with him on this. Fact. We've done how many years worth of videos of feminists and anti-men and the crazy brigade that just show up and scream at people. You try to talk to them about anything, you try to have a discussion, they spit on you, literally. They will punch you. They will hurt you. They want you dead. They want you non-existent. And just coming up to them and holding out a hand and saying, let's have a dialogue while they're trying to stick you with a sharp object is not working so well. And because I think most people that are having this pushed upon them, I think because most people are nice and because they're good and because they're kind, they say, look, I don't want to fight. Let's just come to an agreement. But the other side doesn't want an agreement. They want to end you. They want you to not have a voice or a say or anything else. I think Matt's correct in his assessment on this. And so trying to meet these crazies in the middle, that's done. That's over with. Because all they keep doing is advancing and walking over you. And, you know, when you think about what happened in Germany in 1940s, when I was over there and looking at the Wall of Terror and some of the other monuments and everything, I said, how do we get to a place like this where so many Germans can just, watch the other half of them get ended to be okay with what's going on? Well, we're here. Because so many people listen to the rhetoric of, oh, they're evil. And they're horrible people, and they're misogynist, and they're anti-this, and they're anti-that, and these people need to be ended. There's a lot of people that are there. And they look at you as the bad guy, and they want to end you. And that's all there is to it. And if this grows as a cult of personality or a cult of a movement, it can happen. Look what happened during the jabs. There were plenty of people that said, look, if you don't take the jab, you should not be allowed in society. No more grocery stores, no more interacting, no more traveling. You should be locked in your home or locked away. Well, it's not too much further from that step to, you know what, if they can spread, if I could catch this, if they fight back and they don't want to be part of our system, maybe we should just get rid of them. There are a lot of people that said that too. How far do we go in being nice?
And by the way, this is also a good strategy because it rallies people to our side. It emboldens the troops. It lets people know that it's okay to speak up and to speak truthfully. It's often said that that you shouldn't preach to the choir. That's basically what they were saying at the end of that clip there. just pandering. He's pandering to his own audience. This is a message that's meant for his own audience. Well, God forbid I speak to my own audience on my podcast. No, preaching to the choir is a good thing. We need to do more of it. Because if the choir is demoralized and scared and cowering in silence, then you damn well better preach to them. What kind of congregation can you hope to have when even the choir is too afraid to sing? In our choir, those who agree with us, the many millions of them, have been cowed into submission. They are nervous. They are timid, like you. And then you come along and say that we should ignore them and instead tailor our message for a group that hates us and will hate us no matter what we say or do?
I agree with him here as well. And I'm not on any conservative choir. I'm not a really conservative. I consider myself either partially anarcho-capitalist, or maybe you could call me a true liberal, not a leftist liberal, like a real liberal, which believes in every individual has his own sovereignty and should be left alone to do as he or she wishes. Now, of course, far leftists call themselves liberal, and they've hijacked the word, but that's not actually accurate. They're more authoritarian. He's right that the days of supporting any of this stuff have to be done. Now, many of us don't want to go out and go to protests or march on the streets or get involved too heavily because we've got our own lives to lead, and a lot of this stuff is online. And it doesn't happen in the real world. But the problem is a lot of our politicians, a lot of the people that are making these rules, a lot of people that are involved in this stuff think that online is the real world. Just look how far left the Biden administration has lurched in the last 2 years. I mean, think back. President Trump was president 2 years ago. Look how many things as far as society and culturally have shifted hard left in just 2 years. So how do we push back? How do we fight back? With your money, with your time, with your attention, not being afraid to speak out against the craziness as you see it. Does that mean that some of us might get canceled or in trouble? Yeah, it might. That means we have to find alternatives, which is why a lot of people are moving from YouTube over to Rumble, or moving from YouTube over to locals where they can have, where there's no advertisers to tell anybody, hey, you need to take these people off there because we don't want to show ads. It's all paid for by the community. The people that support us over on places like locals. That's why mainstream media is failing, because they outright just lie to prop up their message, to prop up what the current administration wants you to believe, whether that's Canada, whether that's Germany, whether that's in the United States. He's right. There can be no more Mr. Nice Guy. And we vote with our money. Why is Hollywood struggling? Why is HBO struggling? Why do some of these movie theaters struggle? Because they hate us. So why give them money? I think he's right. I think we can all fight back in various different ways. It's going to be hard. During the jab and everything like that, there were a lot of people that said, you know what? I don't want to do this, but I can't lose my job, or I don't want to move. I don't want to move away from the state I'm in, or I'm comfortable. I don't want to pull my kids out of my school. So I'm just going to go ahead and get the jabs for everybody. Now we're finding out, hey, you know what? There's a lot of problems with this stuff. It's making people sick. The excess mortalities and things are now, in some countries, 20%. Young people dying suddenly. Don't you wish you would have because if everybody in mass stood up then, they would have said, okay, never mind, we're not going to do this. But too few people stood up to fight back. And so the policy continued. We're going to have to learn how to stick up and stand up to this stuff if you disagree with it. If you're fine with, 5-year-olds being taught this stuff and going through the procedures, then I guess that's up to you. I'm not. So I have no plans to put up with it, even though I don't even have kids. I remember what it's like being a young person. I have nephews. You wouldn't let your nephew get a tattoo on his face, a 5-year-old. You know, if they said, hey, we're going to go in and my 5-year-old wants his eyeball tattooed, you'd be like, oh my God, no. He might go blind. He's 5. He can't make these decisions. If kids could make decisions like that, they'd be eating birthday cake every morning for breakfast. So if you don't feel that that's okay, why is it okay to basically take a kid in, mutilate them, and sterilize them? It's not. And you got to push back against it if you believe this.
This is not just morally wrong, it's also terrible strategy. Okay? It is a dumb strategy. In fact, it's exactly what the churches have done for decades. And it's why most of them are dying. They water down their preaching to appeal to the crowd, a crowd that isn't interested in the message, no matter how softly it's peddled. And while at best, because they did that, they bore to death and at worst actively alienate the very people who are actually sitting in the pews. So that's what the churches do. The people sitting in the pews who come to hear it, and then they give their preaching, which is designed to appeal to people who are outside the building and not even sitting there. But the people that are outside the building, they don't come in to hear any more of it. Instead, the people that were actually sitting there get up and leave.
I'll pause him here. He's actually correct on this as well. Now, I'm not a big church-going person, but I can say this. I am seeing so many churches now that have the LGHD TV flags inside of them, where they're having now cross-dressing, quote-unquote, preachers coming in. And it's no longer teaching the messages of the Bible or the church. It's teaching the love and inclusivity portions of it, but it's not teaching any of the actual teachings of God. And so the people that are religious that came there to hear it leave, and then the other people that are coming in is just kind of hijacking it for, I don't know, a hangout, a place to meet like-minded people. This is happening a lot. It's something that I've seen more and more. And again, I'm not directly involved in this, but again, I think he has a point with this.
Conservatism has made the same mistake. And at what point do we learn the lessons that our own recent history seeks to teach us? Now, you say that we can't win hearts and minds by being nice. Because, by the way, I'm not saying that we're only preaching to the choir. That's not it. We also do want to convince people. But guess what? You don't convince people by being nice. You don't. At least not on a cultural level. I mean, where did you get this idea? Where did you arrive at this conclusion? That the way to win the culture is by being nice. Is that how the left won the culture? Have you been paying attention at all? They have seized hold of our society, indoctrinating entire generations, and they didn't do it with niceness. They didn't win these flies with honey. They did it by being bold and aggressive and by making their opposition's arguments seem not only wrong, but utterly horrific. And
that's why they bring it in on the backs of inclusivity, of being kind and understanding of the LGHD TV. It's a Trojan horse, is what it is. The DEI, the bringing in of classes of people based on the color of their skin, based on money, calling capitalism evil, saying socialism and the good for commonality is good, and the Rainbow Coalition. They've used all of this to package the socialism type message, and they insert it. And the minute you start screaming about, no, we need to keep the nuclear families, and no, we need not to do this to the kids, and no, we don't need to reprogram them, and no, we need to push back against that, they yell at you for going against the LGHD TV community. They go at you saying that you're screaming about the race portion of it. All they've done is they wrap this socialism in this little hard candy shell of rainbow/racism, and they've stuck it in. And then if you're yelling about the contents of it, you know, saying that the Bravo Lima Mike, the Black Lives Matter movement is, they had on their webpage tearing down nuclear families, about teaching kids, about indoctrinating kids. When you start yelling about that, they say, oh, you're a bigot. Oh, you're racist. Because they've packaged it all in this ball and they're injecting it. And again, Matt is right on this. Because now they say, well, if you say this, well, then you're a phobe or an ist or whatever. And by packaging it all together, if you say anything about any part of it, you fall into that group. It's what they've done. And so far it's working. It's working wonderfully. We're marching right down the path of now them talking about taking away your First Amendment rights because it hurts people's feelings. When did we get to be such a soft society that if my words bother you, stop listening to me? Mute, block, all these things are available on social media. But instead they say, no, you shouldn't be allowed to say those things at all. Well, who's to determine what's hateful? Who's to determine what's bad or allowed or not allowed? Why the government? Why these people? They're the ones that can decide. Do you think it won't continue on until at one point, oh, I'm sorry, you're a white male. You can't say anything. Nothing you say, you can't say anything. There's plenty of people that feel like that already.
Insane. That's how they did it. See, it turns out that the tone of your argument is often more important than the substance of it. And the tone that actually wins the day on a cultural level is the one that is unwavering and which paints the opposition as so repulsive that you shouldn't even take their position into consideration. Now, the only difference is that they do that to us dishonestly, right? They make the truth seem insane. But what they're peddling actually is insane. We have allowed them to make the truth seem crazier than actual craziness. Okay? We take their ideas more seriously than they take ours, but their ideas are insane lunacy. And we lend them more legitimacy than they will lend to us when we are speaking the truth and they are babbling nonsense. You think this is a good strategy? What is the evidence that this strategy works? We moderate our tone. We seek to kill them with kindness, while they recruit legions by doing exactly the opposite. Again, I ask you, when will you learn?
You know, at one point in time, we had religion in school to some degree. And Christians wanted creationism taught alongside evolution. They said we want both to be taught because Christians felt that God created the world. Me personally, I was not on board with that. I felt like, well, if you're going to let Christianity be taught in schools, then you also need to have all religions taught in schools. That you would need to teach the beliefs of all religions. And I said, so maybe let's keep it to just scientific things and then use church and use family and things like that to teach the religious components. Because if you migrated here and your family was Buddhist or Muslim or something like that, I don't think you should have to listen to a Christian message in a public school. Because my logic was, well, if you were a Christian, would you want to hear a Muslim message or a Buddhist message when you went for your formal education in school? So I said, let's get it out. But do you notice now that this is the new religion? That if you look at kindergarten and first and second and third grade, they've got Bravo Lima Mike, and they've got the Rainbow Coalition, and they've got now DEI and the diversity and the inclusivity, and that, you know, you're born with original sin if you're white, and that you can do no wrong if you're a minority, that you have the right to fight back because of previous oppression. And look what's happening in the schools with fighting and kids without fathers and kids with being taught this kind of stuff. Do you think that a young black male hearing that his white school kids, his white classmates are holding him back and it's his fault, do you think they're going to want to be friends with him, or do you going to think they want to beat him up? Do you think a young white man hearing that somehow he's wronged everybody else and just for being the color of his skin, he's evil, and he needs to give away his freedoms and his rights to other people, do you think this turns out well? But that's the new religion that is being taught in schools. And it's starting right from the get-go. And what's the other religion that's being taught in schools? Let's give kids books that show them what happens when a boy, a child, wants to be with an adult man, when two girls want to be together. What it's like for being all this aggressive stuff to 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds. That's fine. That's okay now. It's because it's the new religion. It's the new message. And if you push back against that, you'll be arrested. You'll be kicked out of the school system. Do you remember when the FBI recently, what happened in Loudoun schools where a young girl had gone into a bathroom and she was raped by a boy that was quote unquote transgender? And it happened, and then they moved him. They didn't tell the parents that their daughter had been fucking raped. And they moved the kid to a new school where he fucking raped another kid. And the father that was at the school meeting that was so pissed off about that, they arrested him and wanted to put him on a terrorist watch list. That the FBI wanted to start coming and sniffing around and saying, hey, these parents that are pushing back against school boards, we're going to put them on a terrorist watch list. So now you better not push back. You better not fight back, or you're going to be on a terrorist watch list. And what are you pushing back against? Having your kid get raped. Letting these boys identify as girls, going into girls' rooms and having sex with the girls. And if you say this, you're the bad guy. You're going to be on the watch list. And for me, I'm going to have to edit the living shit out of this to get this on YouTube. Why? Because of what I'm saying. Because I'm going against the DEI and I'm going against the Rainbow Coalition that wants to mutilate kids from the age of 5. And that's how they get you, see? Because if I don't edit this and I put it out in its full version, just like I'm recording it here, which if you're on YouTube, you're going to find some big gaps in this motherfucker, let me tell you. If I put it like this on YouTube, I will be kicked off YouTube. No strikes, no nothing. They will delete my channel. That's how far this has gone. So yes, Matt is right. I'm personally done with this shit. And it doesn't mean that if I go down to get a cup of coffee and there's a he, she, they down behind the counter, I don't reference you in the third fucking person. I'm not talking to somebody else and going they or he or she. If you're 6'3" and you're built like a linebacker and you used to be a dude but you want to be known as Becky, I'll fucking call you Becky. I'll be polite to you. I'll be nice to you. Say, thanks, Becky. Thanks for the coffee. But I'm not going to ever consider you a woman. I'm just not. I'll still be nice to you. I will let you try to live your life as a woman. That's fine. But I don't believe that you're a woman, and I never will. And I have no problems with that person until they want to go protest to let kids get transitioned, until they want to protest to let these books be in these schools to these 6, 7, 8-year-olds, until they want to go and have this shit put on Nickelodeon, until they want to go protest when somebody like Matt wants to talk and tell his side of things. Then, okay, we go to the mattresses. We go to fucking war. And I think Matt's right, and that we've been so kowtowed by social media and peer pressure and everything else that people say, I don't want to get involved with this shit. But I'm telling you, you better get the fuck involved, because look how far we've come in 2 years. What happens in another 5? When does it become law that if you misgender somebody that you're arrested? Or that your social media is just evaporated and you can't even speak in public anymore? There's already one kid being fucking arrested for that shit because he used the wrong pronoun. And this is Canada, but look how far Canada's fallen in the last 2-3 years. You don't think the United States can go the same way?
Now, finally, If you sense anger in the words that I use when discussing this topic, you're right. That is one crime I will confess to. I am angry. When I look at what these people have done to our country, the devastation they have wrought on a generation of children and adults alike, the bleakness and ugliness of their worldview, the moral and intellectual chaos they leave in their wake, yes, I get very angry. And when I consider that my own children must inherit this culture, that Dylan Mulvaney and his ilk will prey upon my children and try to turn my own sons and daughters into mutilated, mutant, self-loathing, hollow, twisted shells, just like themselves, well, my anger then turns into more of a boiling rage. And I know that I will do whatever is necessary, and I will speak whatever truths are necessary to protect my kids from this hellish, God-forsaken madness. Now, I have personally heard from many parents, more than I can count, who tell me versions of the same horror story. A beautiful and innocent kid, one day, seemingly out of nowhere, gets sucked into the gender cult and is devoured by it. The child they held as a baby and raised and gave their lives to and loved and still love becomes suddenly unrecognizable. All of their innocence and light and beauty just drained out of them, replaced by this self-cannibalizing madness. For a parent, to see this happen to a child, it is a fate worse than death. I would rather be dead than have that happen to my kids.
I'm going to pause here for a second. I don't have kids, but all you have to do is look on TikTok or look at Twitter or look at a lot of these places where you see these kids that are, teens, young teens, maybe just into their 20s, with the purple hair and the 15 piercings in their face, and they're miserable and they're angry and they're frustrated and they think the world is unfair and they want to do videos about what their pronouns are, and they, here's all for the clicks and the like and the adulation on social media. None of those people are happy. The dating problems with young women getting run through by a zillion guys, and then when they get to 30s, they're like, oh, I need a man. The young men that don't have any success of dating because, of all the way that online dating has changed everything. Nobody's happy. Nobody's happy. But, when I was, and again, old man ranting here, but when I was in my 20s, holy hell, was life a lot easier. Like maybe you went to a pub or a club and you tried to talk to a couple girls and get some phone numbers and go out on dates. I did it. Young people were a lot happier. Your biggest worry was maybe trying to get a raise, trying to get a girlfriend, trying to hang out with your friends. But now, with all this other stuff, nobody's happy. I read the statistics here all the time. Nobody's happy. Young people are miserable. And more kind of regular adults are becoming miserable too. Whatever this is, it's not working for the vast majority of people. But they're going to keep pushing it because, again, this is the socialism package. The 15-minute cities in London, taking away your freedoms where you can travel, taking away your rights to where police are more interested in arresting you for something that you said on Facebook than sticking a blade in somebody in downtown London. You look at the crime going rampant. Why are they letting the crime go rampant? Destabilization, demoralization, breaking down cultural norms, breaking down communities, breaking down everything until everybody is so miserable and so unhappy that they just say, I just want things. And then the government will come in and say, we will save you. We've got the answers. We will fix this. Except what they implement will be socialism. What they implement will be more control. Justin Trudeau said how much he admires China. The people there to travel have to have a facial scan. To get toilet paper, they have to have a facial scan. They can get welded in their buildings for not following what the state wants them to do. They're just a bunch of little drones in a hive. And many times the Western leaders say, we like this. We want to emulate that. Well, of course they do. They'd be the ones in power, and no one could ever kick them out. while they get to run the country and tell you how to live and collect all the money. How is it that someone on a salary of $200,000 as a congressman or a senator within a few years is now worth tens and millions of dollars with shady book deals, or amazing how they can trade in the stock market better than the best traders that ever have with inside knowledge? Of course they want to stay in control. This is all part of it. This is the breakdown of society. And if everybody pushes back, none of it happens because the government says we're not going to be able to, this won't fly. But if at least the majority says, I don't want to get involved. No, I'm not interested in that. They win. The 10, the 20, the 30% will push through the craziness because the other 70% let them. And what Matt is saying is right. Stop it. Put your foot down and stop letting the crazies run the asylum.
See, the thing that I most despise about Dylan Mulvaney is that he is part of a movement which actively seeks to turn my children into Dylan Mulvaney. That's why I'm entitled to my anger and to whatever language I use to convey it. I will say whatever I want to say, and I will be justified in saying it, because these people are after my kids and yours and everyone else's. And you're worried that I'm being a little rude? Well, you see, when it comes to my children, the children that I cherish more than my own life, if you think mean words go too far, then you would be very shocked to hear how far I would really go to protect them. Trust me, words are the least of it. So yes, my words reflect anger because I am angry. But the problem is not that I'm angry. The problem is that you aren't nearly angry enough. And that is why the Be Nice conservatives are finally today canceled.
And that was his entire take on it. I wanted to, I'll wrap it up with this. We'll kind of go back here to the quartering. And I guess Tim Pool and others pushed back on Matt because they felt his opinion was too strong and it was mean and hurtful towards Dylan. But again, I agree with him. The quartering says, Jeremy over there says, people being insufferable a-holes somehow only way to win, basis on literally 0 wins. They're convinced being kind has failed them. Here's some of the responses. Respectfully, you are incorrect, Jeremy. It's time to start calling a spade a spade. The time for playing along with inanity is over. Maybe he meant insanity. I don't know. Inanity is over. The lives of the next generation depend on it. Keep in mind that Matt Walsh is a father. You are not. His instincts are to protect his kids. I'm trying to read ones that have some likes. Santino says, I'm a fan of yours, Jeremy, but you're wrong here. Matt is right. They don't play nice either, or neither should we. Being good doesn't require being nice. It requires doing the right thing, and the right thing is to tell the truth, and often in the most brutal and honest way. Here's someone that posts a stone toss meme. Maybe we should have been nicer. We know how that turns out. Let me see who else has a good number of likes here. Seisman Thomas says, if society functioned like they did even in the 90s, this pronouns and gender stuff and women's spaces would hardly even happen. Shaming does work. I'm not interested in understanding them. Understanding and accepting is what led us to this in the first place. Tomahawk says, bro, last month I saw you go harder on your allies than you have on your enemies on this issue. Someone else says, many such cases more interested in refereeing than winning. Loser mentality. I think he's right. I think Jeremy and I think Tim Pool and these others are very much like me, which is, you do you, man. You do you. But unfortunately, the you do you is letting people be racist, is letting people, shaming straight people, shaming men, letting people with minorities or darker skin colors get away with crime and being let out of prison when they're doing bad things, which only leads to more resentment and more hate, which gets us even deeper in the hole. I think we need to be done with this. I think we need to be done with this. And again, I'll be very clear about this. If somebody's part of this community, I have no hate for you. But the problem is that so many in this community don't want to let anybody else live their lives the way they want to. That they want to impose the way they feel on other people. That's not right. I'm against that, whether it's from, the right, the left, or anybody else. You don't get to tell me what to do. But these people get to tell businesses who to hire and tell people how to speak. And that your rights may go away and what can and can't be posted online for video content or whatever else. I'm done with it. I will speak with my money and my votes and my voice. But maybe the reason why we got here is because we let the craziness go too far. If someone over the age of 18 or 20 or 25, you can do whatever the hell you want with your life. But the minute you start saying, look, we're going to trans children, we're going to teach this stuff to second and third graders, and we've got the flags, and you don't pledge allegiance to the United States anymore or the country's flag, but you allegiance to this Bravo Lima Mike and the Rainbow Coalition and everything else. And that's what you're pledging your allegiance to. I'm sorry, you've got it wrong. The days of just putting up with this and being nice about it are over. And again, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but if you want the rest of us to live by your rules, fuck you. Fuck off. No more. No more. Keep it to yourself. Keep the bedroom in the bedroom. Keep your lifestyle in the bedroom. Let children have their innocence. Let people live their lives. Don't police what they say. Let them have opposing opinions. And if you want to disagree with them and be angry about it, great. Have that conversation. But don't tell them to shut up. Don't go burning down, pregnancy centers that the government doesn't even investigate. Go silently pray outside of a clinic and you can get arrested, but burn down a pregnancy crisis center, no investigation. Why are we here? Because there's not enough outcry. There's not enough pushback. Well, from one side, there's a lot of pushback and a lot of screaming, and the other side is just saying, please leave me alone. They're not going to leave you alone. They will keep going until they have everything, and then they still want more. And if you want proof of that, look at feminism. We want equality. Okay, you have it. You can do any job you want to, and in many cases, you're getting paid more than men. But that's not enough. They want more and more and more. It'll never be enough. Because part of it is the power that they have and the control that they have. But the rest of it is they have to have the fight. There's always got to be the fight, because the minute there's no fight and they've actually won, they have no meaning. They have nothing left. All they have to hold on to is the anger and the frustration and the pain and the rest of it. And if they let that go, they have nothing. Their life is meaningless because they're alone. They don't have the group think that is all the hive that is thinking and attacking. The minute they've won, they've got nothing. So they have to keep fighting. But you can't keep fighting if you win, so they always have to keep going for more. You're just going to have to stop. You got to stop with the insanity. I'm going to leave it there. For those of you on YouTube, if you want to see the entire thing, like it's an hour long. I don't know how long this is going to be by the time it makes it up to YouTube. I'll try to keep it close. But come over to Locals, betterbachelor.locals.com if you want to see the whole rant. It's free to be over there. Become a member a month for ad-free experience. Everything else for like $4 a month if you do the yearly, $5 if you do the year. Same thing for those of you that are members here on Locals. I'd appreciate it if you became a supporter today. We'll see you in the next one.